Patagonia. There is a place at the far southern edge of the planet where life depends not only on strength, but on awareness, adaptation, and remarkable agility. At first glance, Patagonia seems almost unreal. Stretching across Argentina and Chile, it is a land of sculpted mountains, open plains, glacial waters, vast coastlines, and a silence so deep it feels peaceful. But that silence is deceptive, because here, survival means enduring the cold, the wind, the hunger, the distance, and time itself. In Patagonia, nature does not hide its challenges, it puts them on full display. There are no dense forests to conceal danger, and no abundance of warmth to make life easier. What exists instead is an open land, dry in some places, cold in others, and always demanding of everything that lives within it. Here, danger almost never makes itself obvious. Sometimes it moves through the low grass. Sometimes it glides above the valleys. Sometimes it waits along the cold shores. And sometimes it hides within the balance of a landscape so vast it can make danger feel invisible. And in a land this open, the most dangerous predator may be the one almost no one ever sees coming. If you crossed Patagonia from end to end without spotting a puma, chances are it saw you. The puma is the phantom predator of this landscape. In a place so open where everything seems exposed, it can still disappear completely. Its coat blends into the dry tones of the steppe. Its body moves close to the shape of the land, and its approach usually comes in absolute silence. What makes Patagonia different is that here, unlike in many other places, the puma often hunts during the day. There is no forest to hide in, so it has learned something else instead: patience. It waits, it watches, it moves in slowly, so slowly it almost seems still. Even without the size of the world's largest cats, it is an incredibly precise hunter. In a split second, it can burst into motion, close the distance with astonishing speed, and turn a brief surge of energy into a decisive attack. And that moment almost always centers around one essential prey animal, the guanaco. In a land where there is almost nowhere to hide, survival also means seeing danger before it is too late. The guanaco is one of the great symbols of Patagonian resilience. It lives exposed to constant wind, freezing nights, and a lack of shelter in a landscape where simply surviving is already an achievement. Its body was built for that life. It can cover great distances, stay alert in groups, and detect threats from far away across open ground. And when danger appears, it can sprint at speeds of over 30 miles per hour. But now the question changes. Even with all that speed and awareness, can it detect a puma approaching in complete silence? The puma moves closer, waiting for one brief lapse in attention. The guanaco stays watchful, but for a few seconds, something slips. And when the attack finally comes, Patagonia reveals one of its oldest rules. Danger strikes when you least expect it, and this time is no different. But the story does not end with the hunt. In Patagonia, the death of one animal also sustains other lives. What begins as a chase becomes part of something larger, because in a place like this, a hunt never belongs only to the hunter. And when silence returns to the plain, other shadows begin to appear in the sky. The Andean condor emerges as one of the great rulers of the air. With a wingspan of nearly 10 feet, it hardly needs to flap its wings at all. It rises on air currents, circles cliffs, and crosses entire valleys as if the wind were part of its body. Its strength is not in attack, but in reading the landscape. Unlike the puma, it does not hunt. The condor finds carcasses from great distances and plays an essential role as a natural scavenger, helping keep the landscape in balance. Wherever it descends, death stops being an isolated end and becomes part of the system again. That is why Patagonia is not shaped only by pursuit and escape. It is also shaped by reuse, altitude, and movement. And none of that would exist in quite the same way without the brutal geography that holds up this sky. The Patagonian mara seems almost out of place. From a distance, it looks like a hare. From another angle, it resembles a small deer without antlers. But it is a rodent, and one of the most unusual animals in the entire region. Its body is built for speed and alertness in open country. Its long legs allow for sudden bursts of motion, while its upright posture helps it scan the horizon. In a place where hiding is difficult, the mara depends on anticipation, distance, and escape. It does not command attention like the puma, and it does not rule the sky like the condor. Its strategy is different. It survives by being discreet, efficient, and always ready to vanish. And near it, almost hidden within the logic of the ground itself, another small survivor takes that discretion even further. The hairy armadillo appears only briefly, but that is enough to understand its role. Instead of competing in the open, it relies on burrows, low vegetation, and a reserved way of life. Its armored body and ground-level routine show that in Patagonia, not all survival happens beneath the wide horizon. Because while the larger animals draw attention across the open landscape, much of life continues almost in secret. The beaver is one of the clearest examples of how a single animal can transform an entire environment. Introduced into the far south of Patagonia, it found rivers, forests, and wetlands without the same ecological controls it would have faced in its native range. The result has been a visible transformation of the landscape. By felling trees and building dams, the beaver alters the flow of water, floods sections of forest, changes the soil, and creates wetlands where there was once a balance between waterways and vegetation. Its impact goes far beyond its physical presence. It reshapes shorelines, interferes with forest regeneration, and changes how other species use the space. It is proof that Patagonia's wild beauty can also be made fragile by quiet disruptions. And where water begins to spread across the land, the region reveals a very different face from the one shaped by the dry wind of the steppe. In some southern areas, Patagonia stops being just open country and becomes a world of cold rivers, damp forests, waterlogged trunks, and shorelines reshaped by water. These environments create a different dynamic. Life no longer depends only on visibility, but also on current, shade, depth, and plant cover. It is an important transition because it prepares the arrival of another vital force in the region, the sea. The Magellanic penguin is one of the first major signs that Patagonia is not sustained only by what happens on land. In large colonies along the coast, it turns beaches and slopes into living corridors between nest and ocean. In the water, it is agile and efficient. On land, it seems vulnerable, but that vulnerability is part of the strategy. The penguin depends on the cold, food-rich sea to survive, returning to shore to breed, molt, and raise its chicks. Its colonies are full of noise, movement, and constant repetition. They are places where thousands of individuals reinforce the same idea. Coastal Patagonia is not peripheral. It is central to life in this region. Because it is right at the meeting point between dry land and cold ocean that this world becomes extraordinarily productive. The Patagonian coast brings together cold, nutrient-rich waters and a continental edge shaped by wind, cliffs, open beaches, and exposed peninsulas. That meeting supports fish, seabirds, coastal mammals, and great migratory species. It is a region where the productivity of the sea fuels the intensity of life at the surface. What seems separate from the steppe actually completes the same story. Survival still depends on awareness, timing, and adaptation. And among the most visible inhabitants of this shoreline are animals that turn beaches into places of rest, breeding, and vulnerability. Sea lions enter this landscape quickly as a transitional presence, but they help explain much of what happens here. Gathered in colonies, they occupy rocky shores and stretches of sand, vocalize constantly, compete for space, and create a concentration of life that draws the attention of larger predators. They are part of the link between coastal abundance and constant risk. Where there is clustering, there is opportunity. Where there are pups, there is watchfulness. And where the shoreline gathers prey, the ocean responds. But before the coast reveals its greatest hunting spectacle, it still introduces another giant. The southern elephant seal turns cold beaches into arenas of strength and reproduction. Males can weigh nearly 9,000 pounds, lift their bodies with astonishing power, and battle for harems in clashes that drain energy, cause injuries, and establish hierarchy. Around them, the beach stops being just a strip of sand. It becomes territory. It becomes a nursery. It becomes a mass of enormous bodies exposed to weather, exhaustion, and the watch of predators waiting for an opening. Pups are born. Females nurse. Males defend their positions, and everything unfolds in a space far too open to ever feel truly safe. In Patagonia, even birth can happen under tension, and it is exactly this concentration of life at the edge of the sea that attracts one of the most intelligent predators on the planet. Orcas appear here only briefly, but decisively. Intelligent, precise, and highly adaptable, they use the Patagonian coast in extraordinary ways. On the Valdés Peninsula in particular, some populations have developed the remarkable technique of approaching the beach with dangerous precision to capture prey almost at the water's edge. That behavior has made this region one of the most famous places in the world to witness specialized coastal hunting. The intelligence of orcas is unmistakable. They calculate, learn, repeat, and refine. But even that precision does not fully contain the grandeur of the Patagonian Sea. Because beyond the brutality of the hunt, there is also the return of a giant that changes the emotional weight of the landscape entirely. The Valdés Peninsula became famous precisely because it shows that marine Patagonia is not only about distant ocean horizons. Here, the drama of the sea comes close to land. Beaches, coves, and shallow waters become a stage for reproduction, vulnerability, and predation. Few places make it so clear that beauty and danger can exist within the very same frame. And it is along this same coastline, where everything seems capable of becoming conflict, that the most majestic closing chapter of this journey appears. The southern right whale gives Patagonia a sense of emotional scale that no other animal offers in quite the same way. Every year it returns to these waters to mate, give birth, and raise its calves in relatively protected coastal areas. Its massive body moves with calm, but that calm is not weakness. It is permanence. It is migratory memory. It is the continuity of a cycle that travels thousands of miles, to return to this very end of the world. When a mother rises to the surface with her calf beside her, Patagonia seems to suspend, for a moment, its harshest face. The wind is still there. The cold is still there. The distance and the threat remain. But so do birth, return, and persistence. And perhaps that is what makes this place so powerful. Patagonia is not only brutal, it is wild enough to allow life to begin again, even under extreme conditions. Throughout this journey, we have seen a Patagonia that never needs excess to leave an impression. We saw the Puma vanish in open country, Guanacos alert and agile, the Condor turning altitude into mastery, the Mara and the Armadillo surviving quietly on the hard ground, the Beaver reshaping entire landscapes, and the coast revealing penguins, marine giants, orcas, and whales within the same living system. Here, everything feels distant, but nothing is empty. The steppe, the Andes, the southern rivers, and the ocean form a territory where beauty and danger move side by side. A place where life does not flourish in spite of the extremes, but because of them. In the end, Patagonia remains exactly that, a wild beauty hidden at the end of the world, and for that very reason, unforgettable. If you've made it this far, subscribe to Planet Films. The next journey is about to begin.